Hey guys, thank you so much for flopping on over here to the Awesome Padrone Show. Just so you know, you're gonna hear us say it again in probably a later video as well. But basically, our recording device broke, and so we had to get a new one. That's pretty much the main reason why we haven't been recording in a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Our last video was like Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
We recorded our top movies of 2022 video last night. We said the same thing last night.
Yeah.
So this will probably come out before that.
Yeah. So we just want to go ahead and restate it here. That's why we haven't filmed a video in a little bit. So the sound hopefully is good. If not, we're just gonna use our backup recording. So hopefully it sounds good. We just like to have the best that we can in our videos, especially that we can afford. And so these microphones help us do that, but we can't use those unless we have something to connect them to record with. And then we are using my phone so that we can have...
We're back to our roots because if y'all don't know, we used to film on his old phone back when we started this channel in 2016, but the camera's a lot worse than this camera, which funny enough, his phone's camera is even better than the camera we were using previously.
Which is crazy
how advanced phone cameras are now.
Yeah, but we just want to make sure y'all know that that's pretty much the big reason why we haven't been recording in a while, because we just wanted to make sure that we had good recording device. Also, this microphone keeps falling because I need to screw it a little bit, so hopefully it's all right. Maybe if I just keep it, maybe I just keep it right there, it's good. Yeah, but anyways, last night we saw Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Back a while ago in the first what are they called, saga Marvel was the Infinity Saga. If there's one complaint I always saw was people talking about how every single Marvel movie is just a setup. It's just a setup for the next movie. That's why Marvel's so terrible. And I would always defend Marvel by saying, no, every Marvel movie was a setup, but it also had its own movie, right? Every movie had its own story. Every movie had its own end goal. Every movie got to that end goal. But then they would put things here and there in order to kind of make sure there's a bigger end goal coming,
right? Yeah.
But at the end of the day, most of those Marvel movies were just their own movie. And that being said, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is the prime example of what those people were complaining about.
Yeah. Honestly, my biggest complaint, which goes into what you're saying, is that this movie had like no breathing room in it. I felt like the pacing was like so off, and because it just felt like they wanted the movie to keep moving at all times. They didn't want to have any downtimes with any characters. I mean, there's a few, but even then, it's not that like the greatest. It's not like an actual like sit down, get to know these characters, get to know the situation more.
Yeah,
it's always like moving forward each scene. It's almost like they had a script and they like take out all the scenes that don't directly move the plot forward.
Yeah, it was basically like they had like a checklist, like do this, and they just made sure that it only had those things in there. And the problem with that is that you make a movie that feels like it has no heart at all.
Right.
There's no heart to it. You're like, oh, well, movies are supposed to have this, so just put something in there like that, And what's really irritating about that is the fact that watching the trailer, and the movie kind of touches on it, and so it's obvious that this is what they're trying to bring about this movie. The themes of this movie are about lost time, right? And one of the people who've lost the most time with people in their family in the MCU is Scott Lang.
Right.
Scott Lang, he went to jail several times through his life. I think it was like 2 or 3 times in his life. Missed out on time with his daughter. Finally got his daughter back. Then he had to be put on house arrest. So he was just in his house. He couldn't go places with his daughter. Finally that ended. And then he's gone for 5 years of her life.
Right, exactly. Right? Which felt like 5 minutes to him.
Yeah, exactly. For like 5 minutes to him, was gone for 5 years of her life. And so this movie, especially from the trailer, what I was thinking it was going to do is like it was going to use someone like Kang, who pretty much just is control time completely. They're going to use him in order to kind of have Scott be like, you know what, I can gain that time back.
Right.
And what this movie does wrong is, like you were saying, it feels like a checklist. It speeds through. And so whenever you have a movie about a guy who's trying to gain lost time back with his daughter, they never have moments where he sits there.
Right.
They never have a point where they just sit on the scene and have a moment between him and his daughter. There's like a little thing whenever they like whenever they kind of bond and move over like small things, but it's like maybe like a 5-10 second scene.
Yeah, it's just like so forced in there.
Yeah, it's almost like, oh, we know we got to do this, so put it in there. But they never have a moment where him and his daughter are there and he's just talking to her, trying to bond with her, trying to see if he can at least gain some of that time back in just small increments. You know, they never have anything like that.
Yeah, and like you meet a lot of people when they get to the quantum realm. There's a lot of like people and creatures there, and they like introduce them, but you never like actually get to like know them that well. You don't get to sit with them for that long. So whenever the big battle happens at the end of the movie, like you don't feel anything because you don't know any of these characters other than the main group of people.
Yeah.
But you don't care about any of the other army or all that. So it's like, or at least I didn't. Honestly, I really feel like they could have made this movie like 2.5 hours and just made it like an epic.
Yeah.
Which, especially considering this movie is setting up the next big bad of MCU, which is King, you would think that they would want to spend as much time developing this character for his first introduction into the MCU.
Yeah.
But instead, they just like rushed through everything because it felt like they were just wanting to be like, okay, we just want to introduce this guy. So just put out a movie real fast.
Yeah. And especially whenever they introduce him in the movie, like whenever he like walks in, it's just so underwhelming. Like whenever he finally walks into the screen, because it shows, there's a part that shows kind of like a backstory with him and someone else, King and someone else, right? And then it immediately cuts to him walking into a room. And it doesn't like cut to like maybe someone talking and then you hear someone like steps coming and then you see him. It literally cuts to just him like walking. And like there's no like big introduction for him. He's just walking in the shot. You know, there's no, and it's so easy to think of ways to introduce your big bad, to introduce this really powerful evil guy, you know, but they just don't do it. Going back a little bit when it comes to Scott Lang and his daughter, is another thing is, first of all, we had his daughter young for like a long time. Then in Endgame, we have his daughter who's older now, right? So that's who we saw first. And then they just completely changed the actress.
Right.
I didn't like that. Nobody did.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do that, if you're going to just swap her on us, even though it's not like we had a lot of time with her, but that's who we connected with.
Right, yeah.
Right, like right then.
Exactly.
You know? Because weirdly enough, it was like just a few seconds in Endgame, but it was like, oh, there was just this such a strong feeling there. And then we kind of associated that feeling with her and Scott Lang. But now it's a new person. Yeah. You need to give us more to feel with her and Scott Lang now.
Exactly, yeah. Like, I honestly felt like her and Scott Lang didn't have, like, the actors didn't have, like, much chemistry at all in this movie. Yeah. Like, honestly, like, going back to what you're saying, the actress who played her in Endgame, I thought had more chemistry with Paul Rudd than Catherine Newton did with Paul Rudd in this movie, in this entire movie.
Yeah, and I don't think I would have liked it regardless, them switching actors on this. But if you're going to, it's not like you can't give them chemistry. Just do it. Right. Like, just work at it. Yeah. Write a good story and it'll work. Because the performances in this movie aren't bad. Yeah. You know, they're all, I mean, they're not like fantastic, you know, but like they're all basic. Most of them are basic performances that you can, with a good story, with a good, well-written story, a well-written script, you can do a lot with. You know, Paul Rudd's always good in the movies, and you know, especially for that character. Yeah. Michael Douglas and his daughter was fine. I'm not gonna act like his daughter was, the girl who played his daughter, what's her name, Catherine Newton, is fantastic, but she was good enough to be able to pull off performances that can make you feel something there. And they just never did anything with the writing. Yeah, which Michael Douglas, talking about him, I don't know how Marvel hired Michael Douglas and only used him just to crack jokes every now and then. Yeah. Like he didn't do much else in this movie. Like I don't understand how they're wasting Michael Douglas so much. Ants. Ant-Man. Which, speaking of, it's like they call the movie Ant-Man and the Wasp, right? And I know why they call the movie Ant-Man and the Wasp. I know people are upset, and because you have the Wasp in the movie, so call it Ant-Man and the Wasp, which makes sense. You know, I understand. But if you're going to call it Ant-Man and the Wasp, Ant-Man and the Wasp need to be doing things.
Right.
Not just Ant-Man and the Wasp in the movie.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm not going to say that she doesn't do anything. It's just that, like, she never does anything extremely... I never feel like she does anything extremely integral until, like, way into the movie.
Right.
You know? Like, whenever you start getting to the climax of the film. Now, we do want to talk about King for a little bit. Jonathan Majors, I'll say, I think did really well. I think he did really well as King. I think he was a good choice. I hope... I can't wait to see him later on, hopefully in better written movies. But... that being said, I do feel like the writing of this movie can give the illusion that Jonathan Majors did not do good as King.
Yeah, honestly, he was my favorite part of the movie, which isn't saying much because I didn't like this movie that much. But I don't know. Maybe it was the writing. I mean, we'll see moving forward, obviously, because he's going to be in a lot more stuff, obviously, with the MCU. So we'll see. But, like, I don't know. I just haven't bought into like this King as like a commanding force.
They just and it has to do. I mean, I obviously don't want to get into spoilers, but there's a lot of reasons why this movie just makes King doesn't feel like really anything. And at some point, it might seem like the point, but you're also introducing this character. You need to make him seem like a threat,
right? Yeah, exactly.
You know, you need, even if there's like a whole bunch of them, you need to make him seem like a threat. You know. Especially when you're going against Ant-Man. Right. You know?
Of all people.
And then getting into the humor of this film, because it is an Ant-Man film. Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy, unfortunately like Thor now, but it's Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy from the beginning were always set to be like comedy. So, you know, which is cool. I have no problem with that. All right? Because I was hoping, you know, if anything, I would find Ant-Man, I would find this movie funny.
Yeah, and enjoyable.
And enjoyable and funny. But even like the humor was very cheap. It was not very well done. At most, it was small chuckles.
Right. Yeah. I honestly, I really don't understand the MCU's obsession with making every character possible into a joke character, which thankfully they didn't do that with King. I'll give them that.
Thankfully.
But everybody else in this movie was just a joke machine. Even the people in the quantum realm. So you can't at least have the people in the quantum realm to be at least a little bit serious. I mean, you can have like humor with them, but it was still the MCU type of cheap humor. It's like, okay, well, I really wish moving forward they would fix that.
I know exactly. And I'm really hoping that this isn't what we're seeing now with Thor: Love and Thunder and Ant-Man and the Wasp. And thankfully, I did like most of the last phase. I did like most of the last phase.
Yeah, I do think that's important to say that we're not people who just hate MCU. Post Endgame.
I liked MCU post Endgame. I mean,
we liked Eternals even. And we liked Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So it's not like we saw like the 48% that's on Rotten Tomatoes or wherever it's at now. Before we saw the movie.
I like Shang-Chi. I like Shang-Chi. I like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I just hated Thor: Love and Thunder.
And She-Hulk wasn't that great either.
But I liked most of the shows. It's just, it seems like, you know, we're starting to get into, it's like Marvel like looked at all the complaints of people who were trying to hate on Marvel for a long time. They're like, you know what? Let's do it. You know?
Just make it come true. Which thankfully I did hear that Kevin Feige, I think, said that they're gonna start to reduce the amount of shows that are gonna be coming out each year. So hopefully that means they're listening to all these complaints and they're gonna course correct a lot of things. So hopefully moving forward, that's what they're gonna do.
But I just feel like a lot of the movies, like this movie, there's just so many small things that if changed could have been good, because this movie at its core was a good story. Like, it could be a good story. There's a good movie there.
And the trailer itself made it look like it was going to be a good story.
There's a good movie there. It's just they did all the actions to make sure it wasn't. Right,
exactly. You know? Another thing, which I brought it up in the past before, the green screens that are in this movie at a lot of times are just so bad. Like,
Yeah, they really
like
are.
which I mean, they've had that whole like scandal, not scandal, but you know what I'm talking about, the controversy about how Marvel has been overworking their CGI artists, and it really shows in this movie, which is crazy because the special effects are great, but it's whenever they put like an actual person in front of the background.
Yeah.
It's like it looks like Spike is like people have made that comparison before, and it's true.
Yeah. And I've seen people talk about how like you shouldn't criticize the special effects because of the people behind it. It's like, okay, that's fine. I'm criticizing Marvel.
Right.
Because obviously Marvel has not set up an environment for them to give us good CGI.
Exactly.
So they need to do that. You know, there's nothing wrong with criticizing the CGI.
If we don't, then it's not going to get fixed. I mean, like I said, like they've already announced that they're going to start reducing the amount of shows that come out each year.
Yeah.
So they're going to give the CGI artists more time now.
Yeah.
So like if you don't complain, it's not going to change.
I mean, that's the point of film criticism in general. People don't like film critics, but film critics are there to keep things in check.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, obviously there's a line that you don't want to cross. Like you can't go too far, but you can still criticize it.
So real quick, we're going to do a spoiler section. So if you don't want to know any spoilers about this movie, go ahead and go to this time right here in order to hot pass this and get to our grades.
So the ending of this movie, I feel like there's many aspects that made it very unsatisfying for me, how this movie ended. The first one I want to bring up is a complaint that's similar to what I had with how they did Kingpin in the Hawkeye Disney Plus show. Because in the Hawkeye show, they had Kingpin fight Kate Bishop in the last episode. And they had him lose to her. But what that does is it really diminishes his introduction into the MCU. Which, I mean, obviously he's been in Daredevil and is technically in the MCU. But this is his first like introduction into the actual like MCU. Yeah. Because if you're gonna have him be in a fight and lose, at least have it with Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Who's an established member of the Avengers who's been in it since the beginning. But to have him lose to a character that's just introduced in this show.
Yeah.
It just kind of like, I don't know. Like obviously he's still alive. I mean, most likely.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, I don't know. It just diminishes his like gravitas. And then with Kang in this movie, they had him lose.
Yeah.
To Ant-Man.
Yeah. Out of all characters.
Yeah.
To Ant-Man. You know, and Wasp hopped in. Yeah. You know, what really killed it is like in the trailer. I love that line when he's like, I don't need to win. We just both need to lose or something. You know? I love that line. When they said in the movie, I didn't care because by that point I was like, I don't.
Right.
Care.
I don't feel anything that's going on right now.
But you set up that thing. You set that up where it's either or, and then you're like, oh no, I'll have both.
You're right.
You know? And
he beats Kang and he gets to go home.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's such like a cookie cutter ending where like everything's perfect. Yeah. Like. They didn't have to kill Scott Lang. You know? Okay, you know, that's whatever. They didn't have to kill him. But, like, maybe let out King.
Yeah. At least have Scott Lang be stuck in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been the same thing that happened to him at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp. But, I mean, still, it would have had stakes. Or, like, heck, if you're going to waste Michael Douglas, just have him kill Michael Douglas.
Yeah, exactly.
Have him kill someone.
Yeah, exactly.
Establish his, like, menacing presence.
Yeah, and the only time he really kills people in this movie is people who are like just like running away.
Yeah, and that we don't know.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. Most of the people he killed are just like running.
Yeah,
you know, they're not like fighting against him.
Exactly.
But, like, so we see like, oh, if someone actually fights against this guy, they got him,
and he gets defeated by like a bunch of ants. Which I mean, I know that they're like highly advanced ants, like 1,000 years into the future, but like. First movie with King, he gets beat by Ant-Man and some ants.
Yeah.
It's like, really? I mean, I know there's going to be like, they teased in the post-credit scene that the mid-credit scene that there's going to be a lot more Kings coming. So there's going to be more of him and different versions of him. But it's like, come on.
Yeah.
You can do a better introduction with him.
Yeah, exactly.
And to go back to what you're saying, they presented a situation and they were able to just have both wins, and have too perfect of an ending. And it's the same thing that happened at the end of the Ant-Man and the Wasp, the first Ant-Man and the Wasp. Well, second Ant-Man, first Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's confusing.
Yeah.
But with the whole ghost situation, how like, I can't remember the exact situation, but like I think she had to have Janet stay in the quantum realm to like heal her, but they saved Janet from the quantum realm, and then Janet was able to just like touch her and heal her, and she was saved. So it's like too perfect.
Yeah,
they were able to save both just all of a sudden at the end. And also MODOK is in this movie. He's in the trailers, which I mean we're in the spoiler section, so who cares?
Yeah.
But I mean he wasn't like terrible, I'll say. But like he just like, I don't know, especially with him like as the villain of the first movie. I feel like they could have done more with him to bring it full circle. But like he just like felt like he was just there. I mean, I don't know too much about MODOK. I'm not saying they should have made him like an integral part of the universe, but I just feel like he was really wasted in this movie.
Yeah.
And the CGI on his face was just so bad. A lot of times it looked like a PS2 graphics.
Yeah, it really did.
And just going back to Scott Lang and his daughter, there's a conflict at the beginning of the movie that I feel like was really forced into the movie. And it's because like his daughter doesn't like how like he wrote a book and isn't really doing much with his life anymore, and isn't trying to still help people and all that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really like diminishing the fact that he single-handedly helped the Avengers save the entire universe.
Yeah, like he was the main reason why they even had a shot.
Yeah, had any idea of how to do it, because it was 5 years after the snap happened and they weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
And he came and gave them the idea of what to do. And not only that, but he actually participated in helping them do that.
Yeah.
And obviously I know she's like probably like a teenager in this movie. I don't know how old she's supposed to be, but I don't know, I just felt like it was really forced in there just to have conflict with him and his daughter.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, he can retire for the rest of his life after doing that, honestly.
Yeah. And really, like, you don't even really need that big of a conflict at all.
Exactly.
For this movie. If you just focus on the fact that the themes of this movie is lost time.
Yeah.
You know? Like, if you just focus on that, the themes of the movie's lost time, the whole story will fall into place very nicely. You know, you don't even need to have that conflict. I mean, you can, and you still do it well. But if your thing is trying to figure out something with the daughter, with Scott Lang and his daughter, it's right there. It's right there. It was in the trailer.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
It's there. Just make that the primary thing about the movie. Lost time.
And just going back to the fact that this movie had no breathing room, I don't know why they didn't spend more time with these villages in the quantum realm. This is a civilization that's been ran by Kang for several years now. Show us how devastating an empire and civilization that's ran by Kang is, so that moving forward, we know the stakes of what happens if Kang wins in the future, or at least a brief taste of it. I mean, they do have a brief scene where they kind of show it, but it's very, very short, and doesn't let you take it in. And they talk about it quite often, but it's a thing of show, don't tell. Even if this isn't the Kang that's going to be moving forward, which I highly doubt that this Kang died at the end of the movie, but at least we have a understanding, a brief introduction of what could happen if Kang wins.
We are going to say that Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is 50% awesome. Well, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, comment and let us know what you thought about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and maybe even rank all three of them.
And don't forget to follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and TikTok, all at The Awesome Padron Show. And we're also both have our own personal TikToks that we're trying to post more on. Mine is at shots_Padron, and yours is
the real Marquez Padron. Yeah, it's just because I'm a big celebrity and people might try to copy mine,
Yeah.
Well, anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see us later.